G'day, welcome to I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here UK version 2022 roundup. Never done anything like this before. All images that you will see, I've got no copyright belonging to me. They are all basically belonging to ITV and or the people who are promoting I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So I don't normally do stuff like this. Like I said, I've never done anything like this before. I've never reacted to anything. I've never set up a live stream to talk with people about what's going on the TV. But I think this year's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here deserves looking at. Hiya JT, hiya Rach, hope you're good. So what we're doing is we're going to be looking at who is in the jungle and where they come from and what they've been up to, and there might be an elephant in the room, but more of that later. First off, let's meet the people whom are in the actual jungle, shall we? We've not watched any of it yet. That radio guy annoys me. He's actually alright, but there's more people to annoy than Chris Miles, I can tell you. A lot more people to annoy than Chris Miles. So the first few people who went into the jungle were, well, we've already spoke about him, so we'll put Chris Miles up first. Chris Miles, who was the longest serving DJ on Radio 1, but is currently working on a different radio station, which is, where are we, where's the image of it, there it is, Radio X, which I listened to. I used to listen to when he was on Radio 1, and now he's gone over to Radio X. I listen to him on Radio X, and he can be annoying at times, but overall I think he's alright. I get his humour. I also get the fact that the music they play is so much nicer than what Radio 1 play these days, which is just benign rubbish. So we had him in. We also had Olivia Atwood, who was chosen by the public to be a VIP, which doesn't mean very important person. It means very isolated people, because after all, it's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Now, she was famous for, or is famous for, well, I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure. I think she's just famous for being famous. She was on, was it Love Island or something like that? I don't know. I don't really care, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, she chose Chris Miles as her +1 on the VIP mission, and they had a very nice lunch before they went off into the jungle, although obviously they didn't go into the jungle to begin with. We also had, everyone calls him Baba. He's a comedian, apparently. I wouldn't know, because I've only ever seen him on Gogglebox, but he is a comedian because his main thing that he's doing is advertising the fact that he's on a tour starting next year. So yeah, he is a comedian, up-and-coming comedian, whereas most of the people who are in the jungle are either famous for being famous or have been around for quite a considerable length of time. Baba Tunde has not. He is a newish kind of guy, unlike Boy George. Now Boy George has been around, God, forever, and he's not the person you would expect to come into I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I mean, you know, if we remember Boy George when he first started out, you know, he was certainly not the jungle sort of person that you would see, and a lot of people didn't know whether he was male, female, whether he was, well, what he was, basically. I mean, it was the 1980s. He was well ahead of his time. I wouldn't say I was a massive fan of Culture Club, which was his band, but the favourite things for me that he's done was a song called Victims, which was quite a quiet song when he was in Culture Club, which you may have heard, and a song called Sold, which he did when he was solo, and was about apartheid in South Africa. I know, who knew? Then we've got Charlene White, who apparently is a newsreader, although I've never seen her read the news, and she was also, or also is, quite popular on a TV show called Loose Women, which I don't watch. Anyway, she's in. She's probably one of the people I don't know quite as well. Jill Scott, I don't know her either, but that's because I don't follow football. But she was one of the Lionesses, the English female football team, who actually won the European European football thing. I don't know what you call it. European Football Cup. Anyway, she's actually earned her place there as far as I'm concerned. Another sports person is Mike Tyndall. Now, he was a massive rugby guy, still is massive to be fair, and he played for the English team as well as many other teams as well, but he's more famous now. Both of these last two people actually were MBEs as well, but he's more famous now for marrying Zara Phillips, who is the daughter of Princess Anne. So he's basically almost a member of the royal family. Then we've got someone else I've never heard of, who is Owen Warner. Now, he's an actor, and he is famous, I use the term loosely, for being in a soap opera. Again, it's not one I watch. It is, in fact, Hollyoaks. No idea what his character is, whether he's a good guy, bad guy, gay, straight, bi, whatever. It's Hollyoaks. It could be all of them at the same time, which is one reason why I don't watch Hollyoaks. That and the fact that I don't watch much TV. But anyway, he's in. Body of an Adonis, brain of a amoeba. It's probably the politest way of putting it. He's basically a male version of a blonde bimbo. Not that you can say that anymore. Or maybe the new Joey Essex. But is he trying too hard to be the new Joey Essex? Because he's an actor. So we'll have to keep an eye on him. And then you've got Scarlett Douglas. Now, she's famous for being a TV presenter on the programme where people can choose to live abroad or they go abroad. It's like Escape to the Country, but it's, you know, in posh places, and it's called Escape to the Sun. And apparently she does that. I wouldn't know, never watched it. And then you've got Sue Cleaver. Now, Sue Cleaver is famous for being in another soap opera, but this one I've heard of, and I've watched occasionally as well, and it is called Coronation Street, and she is the mother of a couple of lads, but she has the house that can all be described as a TARDIS, because there's that many people living in the house. It is unbelievable. It's a 2 up 2 down with a pretty small extension built on the back, which I don't think is double floored. They use the living room as a bedroom, they must do, and then they've got 2 bedrooms upstairs, and obviously the bathrooms upstairs as well. So yeah, she's like a magician. Anyway, those are the original 10 who went in. They got divided into 2 groups of 5, and we got VIPs from both groups. Now, the VIPs were very important. No, not important. What am I talking about? Very isolated people. So they were separated out, and the 2 groups of the 3 remaining went on to do a challenge. And the first challenge that we saw was at the top of a big block, looks like an apartment block on the coast in Australia, where they had to walk out on this plank, go to the edge of the plank, and there was another plank that was at an angle. They had to stand on the angle and then hold in what looked like, you know, when you go water skiing, you've seen them on the telly, where they go water skiing, they have one of them little bits of wood with a bit of string that's attached to a bit of string. That's all of them behind them, and lean forward. Now, Charlene went out very slowly, very tentative, and she hung over the edge. And then Baba went out, and, well, his entire body, as Ant Deck said, was telling him not to go out, and he didn't go out. He said, I'm able to get me out of here, and ended up going back. And then our football player, she went out, and she did it, and they had to basically hang for a minute, hanging over the edge of this very tall building, and then they had to let go of the rope to get the star. So they got 2 stars out of 3. and I thought that was a lot of stress and a lot of work that they probably didn't need to happen. But what can you do? It's I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here, and then poo occurs. Meanwhile, the other team, they went on to do their own challenge and they got 3 stars each. Apparently I'm online. Who knew? Who knew? So what about the celebrities who were VIPs? Well, our Place in the Sun woman, Scarlett, and Boy George, they had a lovely meal on a yacht before they were taken away to go on an island on their own, along with Chris Moyles and Olivia Attwood. They had a nice meal as well, and then they were taken to the same islands. They eventually met up and they had to spend the night basically on a beach without any cover. And you're like, well, basically that's the same as being in the camp, but you know, near a beach. But then it got a little bit worse for them. They had to go to the beach and meet up with some other people, i.e. Ant and Dec, and they had to do a challenge which basically involved the girls putting their hands in a hole and, you know, various creepy crawlies and things in there, and they had to turn these taps to put water into where Boy George and Chris Moyles were, basically in torpedo tubes, and the water kept going up and up and up, and every now and then, if they managed to get to a certain level, the star would fall in. They'd pick the star up while they were in the tube and put it in the bag. Anyway, they did very well and they got all the stars, so that was good. And then they went back into the camp proper. So far, bog standard, basic, I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. Oh, I did get a picture of them putting their hands in the various holes. There you go, Olivia. And yeah, it was interesting but quite boring. But then, of course, they notched it up a little bit. We had a certain, how can I put this politely, politician who decided that he was going to come into the jungle. And this is where things get a little bit difficult, because one of the people coming in is Matt Hancock. Now, if you're a regular viewer on this channel, you know that I've done a lot of vlogs, I've done a lot of live streams of political stuff going on. They're all still available on various playlists. And I'm not a big fan of Matt Hancock. He was basically the health secretary at the time of the COVID crisis and just seemed to be, I don't know, a bit aloof, a bit, I don't know, I couldn't put my finger on it, but we had a reason to dislike him. And it wasn't just me, most people didn't like him. I think whoever is the health secretary just doesn't get liked by people, which is, I'll be honest, is fair enough. And then an image appeared of him in a compromising position with a lady who wasn't his wife or living in his house, when everyone else was not allowed to go near anyone. And there was a big kerfuffle about this. Now, the actual image was taken inside a government building, and I said at the time, how has an image from a supposedly secure government building got out? And I was more offended by the fact that he's married, and he was having, obviously, an affair with this woman. But most people were annoyed about the fact that he was too close to this woman. I'm like, he's having an affair with her. Surely that's more important than being too close. Anyway, he managed to survive for a while. And then, eventually, he got moved to the backbenchers, i.e. he lost his job. But, still an MP. So, he decides that this is the right time to become a contestant on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and flies to Australia, basically abandoning his constituents, Parliament. I mean, we've got all these crises going on at the moment, and he just basically just buggered off and left them, which I don't think is necessarily right at all. And when he got into the jungle, he wasn't in the normal camp. Anyway, a short while later, well, I say a short while later, it's on TV, it could have been hours later, but anyway, he got joined by a guy called Sean with 2 N's. Ooh. And he also has been wronged in his eyes by having an affair. He was basically in Strictly Come Dancing a few years ago and was caught on video in a compromising situation with his dance partner. It was the Strictly curse, as they like to call it. And his career basically fell off a cliff at that point, and he became one of the most hated people in the United Kingdom, which I thought was a bit over the top, because everyone knows if you go into I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here and you're in a relationship, that relationship will end and you will end up in another relationship. That's why it's called the Strictly curse. Anyway, the weird thing was that these two made up, and Sean was obviously completely gobsmacked in the fact that the person he was first met in the jungle was an MP, and you could see, you know, he was just like open-eyed and like, oh my god, what the hell is going on? But this weird bromance seemed to develop between the two of them, and they became moles. So basically they had to go into camp and carry out certain challenges. So they spent the night in their camp, I think, did they? Or did they go straight in? I think they might have gone straight in actually. But yeah, they were basically undercover agents and they had to do some various things. So Sean, I think, had to call Chris Moyles Greg 3 times, which was really annoying, because Greg, oh no, it was Matt who did that, because Greg is the one who took over, or his opponent on Radio 1. And then Sean had to pretend to be a twitcher and make up bird noises and whatnot, and then they had to steal a gilet and a hat as well. Anyway, they managed to do all that, and that went well, because that meant that they were going to be, I've jumped ahead here, haven't I? They did stay, no, they didn't stay overnight, right. So I'll say I've never done this before, this is a weird one, so just bear with us. So yeah, they end up becoming these moles, but prior to that they had to do a challenge, and the challenge was basically being moles. They had to go into a very, very dark place, which I think both of them have been in before, but not necessarily physically a dark place, just mentally a dark place, and find the stars. So they need 11 stars, they only found 6. To be honest with you, they were shockingly bad at it, but Matt Hancock seemed moderately fearless about the whole thing, and he got 4 of the 6, and Screamy Sean only managed to get about 2 of the 6. So they went into the main camp all very happy because they'd got 6 stars, and the campmates were in shock about these two turning up. But what I loved about it was the fact that they, when they got out of it, they were just covered in crap. I mean, absolutely stinky, smelly cockroaches and everything else. It was just horrendous. But that's, you know, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. They managed to have a wash and brush up before they went into camp, and in order to sneak in the camp, they basically come out of these holes in the ground with a lid on, and it's one of the, I mean, no matter who they were, it's one of the funniest things in the world. Seeing these 2 grown men popping out of these holes with little hatches on. They were like the clangers coming out of their underground areas. So yeah, it was an interesting start. They got into the jungle and into the camp, sorry, and Boy George was getting a little bit stressed out about the whole thing, because obviously with the COVID and all the restrictions that we had to put up with, and people being ill and passing away and all that kind of stuff. So to alleviate the tension, Mike Tyndall started doing a bit of rapping, and was actually quite good at rapping as well, I'll be honest with you. I was impressed. And then we got the first challenge for the people in camp, and Baba got chosen for it, and it was a height challenge, which I think was a bit bad, sticking him up very high, bearing in mind he'd failed abysmally on the original height challenge that they did. Well, that's probably why the British people voted for him. In fact, this was before Sean and Matt went into camp. However, Baba managed to get all 11 of the stars, and I was really impressed with him, to be fair. I thought the boy done good. Meanwhile, the hunk went into the shower and completely shamed everyone else, as you do, I suppose. And then, yeah, like I say, Matt arrived with Sean, and the first challenge that they had when Matt arrived was the Tentacles of Terror, and the British people voted for Matt to do the Tentacles of Terror. Who would have thought that would have been a thing? People voting for a politician that they don't like to go into something. Now, the Tentacle of Terror was basically a metal octopus kind of thing, with these tentacles that come off it, made of steel, and inside was either a box or something with a star in, which was tied in, and you had to go underwater and swim into the tentacle and get the star untied and put in your bag. And meanwhile, in the same area was a crocodile, not a huge crocodile, but big enough. And Matt did well. He got 11 stars, which was, again, a bit of a shock. It was like, this guy's a useless politician, but he's actually quite good at jungle challenges. But he's still a politician, and should he be in the jungle? Next up, the following day, we had the next challenge, which was La Cucaracha Cafe, which is basically a Mexican cafe. Basically, it's an eating challenge. Boy George and Matt were chosen. Boy George has come across as a grumpy old man, to be fair. He's heavily into his Hinduism and does a lot of chants and whatnot, which is nice, I suppose, if that's what you believe in. I don't have a problem with anyone doing anything that they believe in. And yeah, he's a vegetarian, so you're like, well, how's that going to work? How is he going to do the vegetarianism of the eating challenge? Well, it was quite easy. They basically give him lots of fermented crap, which looked awful, to be fair. But again, he was in a Zen state, and he seemed to do really, really well. No matter what they threw at him, everything was designed to look quite nice. But Matt Hancock, well, obviously he's eating an animal, so he ended up eating a penis of an animal, a vagina of an animal, and a rather nice bumhole of a cow. And again, though, did really well. He also had a load of cockroaches on a stick to eat at the end as well. And when they came out of it, because they'd shared this experience, it looked like Boy George and Matt were actually getting on. Now, bearing in mind, Boy George was threatening to leave the camp when Matt arrived. You're like, well, that is a turnaround. And it comes across as being some kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say Dunkirk spirit, but certainly camp spirit, where we're all in this together. We all have to work together as a team. We may not be friends after we leave, but we will do what we need to do in order to survive. In the meantime, Jill, the footballer, and Owen, the hunk, they won the option, which they both chose to do, by a random choice of keys, of living in the camper van. So they could sleep in a camper van with proper beds, mattress, proper pillows, and a proper cover covering them. And we're like, okay. Now, they did something with a bus a few years ago, and I think they had a taxi in there as well, but this is like a camper van, not dissimilar to what they had on the TV show Bad, I need to say Bad Company then, not Bad Company. But anyway, yeah, that's where we're at the moment, and I'm thinking that's where it's sighted, the camper van in the jungle. And I'm thinking, is this series going to end up being pulled? Because a lot of people are complaining because of Matt Hancock being in there. Now I get that Matt Hancock being in there is a problem for a lot of people. It's a problem for me to a degree, not only because of what he did when he was in the cabinet, but also the fact that he's still a serving MP. If you're an ex-MP, then I don't think it's a major issue. If you are a serving person for public life, then surely you should remain that. Although I'm pretty sure someone else went in to the jungle, and I'm pretty sure we had the woman doing Splash, which I talked about when the elections was on for the Tory party. If they've only just been put in, they shouldn't get comfy beds so quick. Well, yeah, you're right, JT. That is an issue, but I think that's just to upset everyone else. What they're trying to do is put division in there. They also go off and do various sub challenges as well, where a couple of them go off and they have to solve a puzzle. And Owen and I think it was Jill went off and had to do a crossword type challenge where they had to go into what looked like alphabet soup, pick up these letters and solve a crossword. And neither of them are the most intelligent people on the planet, no disregard to them, and no doubt they would agree to a degree. But they managed to do it, and then you get a bag of money which you take to the Australian guy who doesn't speak to the two people there, but then rings up the phone box and asks a question, and then all the remaining campmates have to agree to an answer, and then they either get a treat or not a treat. And the treat they won for the crossword was well, basically half a custard cream each. And you're like, what? Half each? Not even a pack between them? I don't like custard cream, so I'd have been in there. They could have had my half of the custard cream. I'd have given it to the people who actually did the challenge. But since then, they've failed on the challenges, or failed answering the questions anyway. But it's a day out, isn't it? So yeah, it's up and running. It's only on for another couple of weeks, so I might do 2 more of these, depending on reactions I get from people. And we'll see who wins it. Now, have I got a favourite at the moment? I have. My favourite at the moment is actually Chris Moyles, although he's not been in the TV show so much recently. But some of the quips he come out with, like for example, when they got on the beach and the girls had to put their hands into this thing to turn the taps and whatever. When they arrived there, that has a bit that comes out over, and they'd been out in the hot temperatures and they were really hot and sweaty. So what they did was, Ant and Dex said, you know, we're here now, and you had the 2 tubes, a bit like if you've seen a submarine where they put the torpedoes in. They had 2 of them on one side, and then this other bit where all the holes were to put their hands in. And they said, what do you think the challenge is? And Chris Moyles, as quick as a flash, went, what we're going to do is we're going to sit in the shade eating donuts. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that. But very sharp, very witty, and yeah, at the moment he's my favourite. Although people have got a little bit upset because he's taken advantage of the naivety of Owen, and very early on said to Owen that he is a UK world champion, or a former UK world champion of dancing. And Owen's like, what, really? And Chris said in the diary room, whatever you want to call it, well, no, not really. But he said it just is amazement, Owen's amazement that he was a dancer and all that. I said, yeah, it was a long while ago, and I did all these different kinds of dances. And he's going to see how far he can push Owen. Now, people have said that Owen's being bullied by Chris Moyles, and I'm like, well, no, bullying is when you pick on someone, so you criticise them, like, you know, I've got a massive nose, I'm fat. So if someone said, you know, are you alright there, Concord, or should we call you a guppy aeroplane because of your big fat belly, then that would be classed as bullying. I'd take it as banter, but most people would take it as bullying. But he's not taking the mickey out of Owen. He's not saying, Owen, you know, you are a blah 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 blah. He's saying, I am a blah blah blah. and Owen's believing it. So I don't think that's bullying. I think that's just a bit of banter and a bit of fun. And let's be honest, most of the time in there, the majority of campmates have got nothing to do other than sit around and talk to each other. So why not make it entertaining? As long as you're not ripping into someone unnecessarily, I don't see what the problem is. That is my humour, to be fair. Like I said before, I listen to Chris on the radio because we have a very similar sense of humour. I mean, he's from Leeds, I'm from Manchester, so technically we shouldn't get on because you got, you know, the War of the Roses and all that kind of thing. But other stuff he said he might come out with is saying that his father invented the running equipment that you have. What do they call it? I don't know because I don't use them. But you know, the bit where you just stand and you just run doing exercises and it goes up and down and all that kind of thing. So if you're going to say his father invented that, I might come out with a few other bits and pieces as well. And I think it's fun, and I think Owen just enjoys the interaction and the fun with people. So I'd say at the moment my favourite person is Chris Moyles, but then I'd say I like Owen as well. I think he's actually quite funny. I just hope he's not trying too hard to be the new Joey Essex. I think that would be a bad thing. Sue is coming through as being the woman who is the matriarch, the kind of... I think he'd believe a lot of things. I mean, I had someone who was very gullible when I worked at Asda, and I come up with this thing that I said to him, not in just it just come into my head and I just said it. I couldn't repeat it now, and he went off, and you know I carried on my various jobs and whatnot, and then at the break time, I worked nights, so it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. About 3 of the women who worked there come up to me and said, have you said blah 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 to so and so? And I went, yeah, he asked me a silly question, so I give him a silly answer. Well, he believes it and he's telling everyone this. So I had to go over and explain to him that I just made it up, and I didn't think for a minute he believed what I'd said. And yeah, gullible people, he took it okay, and we remained friends and all that. But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think Chris and him might be good friends for life. But anyway, yeah, Sue Cleaver is coming across as being a very thoughtful person, and Charlene White basically took over the cooking for the first few days, which riled a few people up, including Boy George, and including Scarlett as well, who got a little bit, you know, we want to do a bit of cooking, we're bored, we're not doing anything, and she's kind of taking over. One thing I forgot to mention was Olivia. She didn't actually get into the camp for long, and she got sent home for a medical issue. Hopefully it's nothing serious. But I think the main surprise for me, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is the fact that Matt Hancock, I wouldn't say I'm warming to him, but I don't hate him as much as I thought I would do. Now I understand why people would hate him, and I would agree for their reasons for people hating him, but at the end of the day, he's a human being like the rest of us, and you know, I don't think he should be there now. I think he should have maybe gone in a couple of years when things have died down, and you know, he's not an active MP, and I imagine he won't be an active MP in the near future, because you know, he's done so many things that are wrong, and I think as a way of, you know, clearing people's image of you or changing people's image of you, I think I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here is a good way of doing that. But I think he may have done it too soon. However, my opinion of him has changed. He is actually quite funny, but like I said, you know, so many people lost people during COVID when he was in charge. He was, you know, like one of the big people in the government at the time coming out. He even did a lot of the press conferences completely on his own. He was like the main man in the press conferences. It wasn't like he was like someone in the background. And then he got caught having this affair, and he's still with this woman, as is Sean, with the dancer that he met in Strictly Come Dancing. You know, it is a strange thing that people make mistakes, but when you do it in such a public way, either your job is public involved and you made mistakes. He's tried to explain himself, because obviously the celebrities have asked the questions that everyone else wants to ask, and to be fair, he's answered the majority of them when asked, knowing that it's going to go out. And I just think he's done it too soon. I think people would have forgiven him for doing it later. Now, when Rishi became the leader of the Tory party, he went to Tory headquarters, and Matt Hancock was stood at the bottom of the stairs. About 3 people on the front row. 3 people were before him. Then there was him, and then there was another person. And Rishi come out the taxi and shook the hands of the 3 people, completely blanked Matt Hancock, shook the hands of the person on the other side of him, and then shook people's hands on the other side of the walkway that they'd produced, and then went up the stairs shaking hands, and basically blanked Matt Hancock. And I'm wondering if he knew at that point that Matt Hancock was going into the jungle and didn't want to get involved with it, because they actually got on previously when they were in cabinet together. So it's all a bit strange. Now, there are people who are in there who basically, we're not really seeing. Now, they could be playing a good game of hiding, but I don't think it's going to work. I think they've all had a bit of moments, and like I say, Chris Moyles up to now has not done a lot in there, apart from coming out with the odd quip. He also did a few, teas and things to his girlfriend, which I think he's been told he can't do anymore now, otherwise people will get punished in the camp, which I think is fair. If no one else is doing it, why should Chris do it? But yeah, my current favourite is Chris. Boy George, again, like I said earlier, he's not. But anyway, I think for the first one, we'll leave that there, and we will see what develops over the next few days, and we'll do another one randomly. But I say, it depends what feedback I get. If I get lots of likes, then fair play, I'll do them again. If I get nice comments or agreeing comments or whatever, then that's fine as well. One thing I've realised is I need to change the format of the way I've took the photographs. So I need to number them so they're all in order, because that wasn't in order. So when I do the next one, they will be in order. I promise. Because the challenge for tonight is Owen and Matt, and they're going to be silly on air, which is basically millionaire. Who wants to look millionaire? Who wants to be a millionaire? So they're basically going to get covered in gunk, slime, and God knows what. And weirdly, Owen was really upset because he wanted to do the eating challenge. That's why I say I'm liking Owen as a personality. He seems, like, the guy next door. Okay, he's ripped to hell, but the guy next door who'd have a bit of a, you alright mate, yeah, that kind of thing. Oh, do you see what happened last night with so-and-so next door or whatever? He seems like a nice chap. And quite a few of these people, you'd think, you wouldn't mind having a pint with. Like, Mike Tyndall, Chris Moyles, the lioness Scarlett as well, because she's been all over the world. She'd be interesting. Owen, Sean would be an interesting character. They've all come across. There's no one to really hate for what they've done in the jungle. There's reasons to hate them outside the jungle. So, will the British public forgive them, or will Matt Hancock have to do every challenge until he's voted out first? Because I can imagine that's going to happen. Are people going to leave him in there? Who's going to go first? I mean, there are some people who've done very little, and I don't think they deserve to remain there. But then again, does Matt Hancock deserve? Because he should be coming back to Britain to sort out his mess. He's been kicked out of the Conservative Party for doing this. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's Who Wants to Be Silly on Air is our next challenge. Bush took a trial, and we will see what, if anything, comes of that. How many will they get? And more importantly, when do we start kicking people out and who'll be the first to go? So yeah, that is my I'm a Celebrity Roundup number 1. where we talked about the people coming in, what they're about. Next time we'll talk about what they've been up to, and I'll pay more attention and keep it in order as well. So thanks, Stay Green, Stay in the Woods, JT and Rachel, for joining in, and I will see you all again next time. Notice I've got the a shirt on that's quite jungly. See, I don't make this stuff up. I think about it. I don't make it up as I go along. It's all rubbish. Anyway, thank you very much. Oh, I've had 3 likes already, so that's good. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Just enough time now to go down and watch I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, or alternatively watch Blankety Blank. Anyway, take care, look after yourselves, and remember, if you ever get there, you can always shout, "I'm a celebrity, get me out of here," and I'm going to say, I'm not a celebrity, but I'm getting